Hey guys, so today is so freaking exciting. I love this video every year. It's always my most ambitious and exciting TBR of the year, and that is my fall TBR. We know that my tastes, my moods, they have been all over the place, and I've not been reading much romance, which is usually probably at least half of what I read. I have really been gearing towards mysteries and also epic fantasy. So I also have no idea where I'm going to be landing even like in a month from now. What I try to do on this TBR was a little bit of everything. It's kind of like a pile of possibilities, some books that are feeling like fall to me. There are also books that I want to read because of read-alongs, or books that I want to read because they're new releases that I've been anticipating for a long time. We'll see how much of these books I read, but I will tell you right now that I currently want to read all of them. That's how I feel in this moment right now. I think that there's a good possibility I'll read at least like 30% of these for multiple different reasons. So I'm going to keep this, I guess, like sectioned. I'm going to try to put timestamps in here because I'm going to have cozy mysteries, cozy fantasy, cozy romance, epic fantasy, thrillers, horrors, all that stuff. So I'm going to put timestamps in there for you guys so that you can kind of jump around. I do have a couple of fantasy romances on here just in case I do fall back into a fantasy romance mood. I will start out with those right now because that's what I just mentioned. Before I do, don't forget to click the subscribe button if you haven't already, and click the like button too. It really helps my channel out. Also, before we start, I have 44 books on this TBR, so there will not be synopsis like for any of these books. I'm just going to be giving like genre, subgenre, author, title, and vibes. That's it. I don't have time for synopsis today because, like I said, yeah, 44 books. So let's get into this. The first one here is Rachel Gillig's One Dark Window. She does have a new release this year that a lot of people have been reading, but I still haven't read this duology, and I own this first book in this duology, and it looks really good. I've heard great things. It's actually, I think I've heard better things about this one than her newer release, so I'm still very intrigued by this one. It is gothic fantasy romance, eerie, creepy forest, maybe a little bit of witchy vibes, so very excited for this, and like I said, very much a fall mood. And then part of my like not being super into fantasy romance recently has just been, I don't really feel like reading smut, to be honest. Like, I just kind of don't feel like that. But this book that's been on my TBR about a million times, I've had it on so many TBRs. This book is not supposed to be very like spicy. I think it's supposed to be like close, like not fully closed door, but like close to it. So this is Hole in the Solace by Denali Day. It is a Viking wyvern rider barbarian fantasy romance, potentially enemies to lovers with a very independent heroine. These descriptors are all descriptors that I generally love. I mean, dragons and wyverns, dragon or wyvern riders, enemies to lovers, barbarians. These are all definitely things I love. I think it is Viking inspired as well, so perfect for the cool down in the weather. Really quick, this is not a fantasy romance, but I did just haul this. I went to my local library book sale. This is a historical romance, but the cover gives fall, and it is a medieval romance, and I've never heard of this author before. This is Flora Spear, and it's For Love and Honor, and this cover gives major fall vibes. I read the prologue and then I started reading chapter 1, and I was getting along with the writing style. So I think that this could be definitely a contender. Like I said, fall vibes, and I want maybe a medieval romance would give me more of that pining and yearning I'm wanting more of in my romance. Okay, and then if we're going from fantasy romance, we might as well kind of drift into cozy fantasy romance. A lot of cozy fantasies have romance in them, so this is definitely a book on the border of the two, and that is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping by Sangu Mandana. This is my most anticipated book of the year. I adored The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which is a kind of companion novel to this book, and it's supposed to be very cozy. We've got a woman who has an N. She's a witch that's not supposed to use her magic. She has a fox companion, so this is a new release that I'm dying to get to. Another cozy fantasy that I haven't read that I've owned for a bit now, and I'm just really disappointed in myself about that I haven't read this, is Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. This is the prequel to Legends and Lattes, which I gave 5 stars, I believe. Really enjoyed Legends and Lattes, and I'd love to read this prequel. This is cozy, a slice of life fantasy about an orc, and I think in this one she is kind of like working at a bookshop. So, very intrigued to get to this. He does have a new release in the series coming up in, I think, November, so that might show up on my winter TBR if I can get this one read in fall. Next, I have a book that I picked up from the library I had never even heard of. This is a cozy fantasy called The Bartender Between Worlds by Herman Sternagel, I think is how it's pronounced. Pretty cool cover. I really like this, and I think that it's cozy fantasy. It's about a bartender. I think it might be sapphic. I don't know much about it other than I was really excited to see like an indie cozy fantasy at my library, and I had to pick it up. And then I have Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. I just finished Wind and Truth. If you are interested in that, stay tuned for my reading vlog coming up after this video. So sometime like in the next week or so, I will put that reading vlog up and you guys can see my reaction to Wind and Truth. But I am excited to get to some more Brandon Sanderson, and I haven't read any of the 4 special releases that we got from his secret projects. We have 4 of them, and I really want to read them. So Tress of the Emerald Sea, a perfect cozy fantasy, I think, for fall. I had to double check my phone too because there are some books that I don't own. Another cozy fantasy, but it's translated healing fiction potentially, but potentially cozy fantasy too. I'm not quite positive, but it's called The Amber Glow Candy Store. There's a fox's tail in this picture too, and the whole cover is giving fall, but I've really been enjoying healing fiction, like translated healing fiction lately, and this is by Hiyoko Kurisu. I'm really sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but I have the cover right up here, and it just looks like the perfect healing fiction for fall. Potentially, like I said, cozy fantasy. I'm not quite sure. And I also have Witches of Dubious Origin by Jen McKinley. I've read Jen McKinley before. I read her Library, is it the Library Lovers mystery series? I read the first book. I'm planning on reading the second book soon. And I like her writing. And this one is, it looks like set at a library, and it looks honestly like perfection. Give me witches and a library and a cozy fantasy any day, and I want to read it. And it's a newer release. It's coming out this fall, so I did forget one. It is Cat Dragon by Samantha Birch. This cover, there's a witch. There's a cat with wings that must be a cat dragon, and there's falling leaves. I don't need to know anything else. That is an upcoming new release that looks amazing. Okay, we're still on cozies, I guess, so let's talk about cozy mysteries. Okay, for cozy mysteries, I have A Batter of Life and Death. That is by Ellie Alexander. It's the second book in her Bake Shop series. I really enjoyed the first book. Looking forward to continuing this one on. This one is set in fall. I started it and realized it's super, super autumnal, and I wanted to wait to read it in fall. Like in the very beginning, she's talking about like a squash apple, like pumpkin apple soup, and like a bunch of warm spices, and just, I was like, yes, I need to wait on this one. So I'm very excited to read this. I also have A Trip with Trouble by Diane Kelly. This is set at a cabin in the Appalachian Mountains. I just read the first book in the series. I enjoyed it. I guess I should say more like a lodge as opposed to a cabin. It's more like a lodge. Yeah, it's a lodge in the Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina, and you even get like snippets, like little short chapters from her cat, and that's really fun. And so there's a cute little burgeoning like romance happening in here, and it's obviously set during fall. And another book too in a series is When the Crow is Away by Orly Wallace. This is like Gilmore Girls meets Practical Magic. It's perfection. I really enjoyed the first one. It's a cozy fantasy mystery, but I will say the first book was, I guess, a little bit less on the cozy side if you consider, like, there are some cozies that are more cozy than others. Some deal with hard-hitting things like grief or addiction or other things like that. And this one deals with grief because our main character's husband has passed away recently, and it's actually caused a block in her magic. So that's what the first book's like. That's the first book, and this one is the second one, and I'm very excited to see what happens next. The main character's aunts are on the inn with her, and one is like a greenhouse witch, one is like a kitchen witch. It's just super cozy, and I'm looking forward to reading book 2. Okay, next I have One Bad Apple. This is by Sheila Connolly, and it's set at an apple orchard. I mean, I don't know what else I have to say about this one. I think it's going to be really fun for this season. And then I do also have a bent copy. I'm not sure why it's like this, but I don't know. But this is The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this series. It's elderly sleuths that are living in like a retirement home together that solve murders together, and that sounds really cute. And yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about that series. I also have some books on hold at the library I haven't gotten yet, and they are Catherine Burns' A Doom Full of Sugar. That one is at a maple syrup farm. I also have Shelved Under Murder by Victoria Gilbert. This is the second book in the Blue Ridge Library mystery series. I just read the first book and had a good time with it. I want to continue on. This one is set in fall. And Buried Secrets, which is a Cranberry Cove mystery series. It's the first book in that series. It's by Peg Cochran, and it's set at a cranberry farm. That whole series I think is perfect for probably like fall and winter, to be honest. And then Gone for Gouda. This is the second book in the Cheese Shop mystery series by Karina Moss. I adored the first book in this series. I have to read the next one as soon as possible. It also had me spending too much money on cheese. I will just like warn you that if you read this book, you're gonna want to spend a lot of money on gourmet cheese. It's worth it though. Death Overdue by Alison Brooke is about a haunted library, and that is really cute. It looks like it's set around Halloween time, so that sounds great. Whiskey Business is an upcoming new release. It's by Adrian Andover, and it's actually a male sleuth, and that one sounds really cool. I'm excited about that one. And also One Poison Pie by Lynn Cahoon, which is a kitchen witch series that sounds like the whole series is probably honestly perfect for fall. I also would love to continue with Nancy Warren's vampire knitting series. I'm on book 5, which is Pearls and Potions. I don't think it's set in fall, but that's just the book that I'm on right now. And I'd really like to read this series that is like one of my mom's favorite series, and it's some people would say it's a cozy mystery, other people would just say it's a mystery, but it's Martha Grimes, and it's the Richard Jury books. The first one is A Man with a Load of Mischief. I think it's actually set in winter time, but it's screaming cozy to me, and I'm in the mood for like a good mystery. And I'd really like to read some books that I know that my mom really likes, and we can chat about them, and that would be a lot of fun. So I've heard really good things about this. I think my sister read this series too and really enjoyed it. I don't know if it's still continuing, but yeah, I would like to read this one. Okay, so let's talk about the cozy contemporary romances that I don't usually read, but I kind of think might help me get into the romance mood again, because these really remind me of cozy mysteries, but they're just cozy romances. They might have a mystery in them too, but because I'm liking cozy mystery so much, I'm hoping they might be like a gateway back into romance for me. So the first one is The Honeycrisp Orchard Inn by Valerie Bowman. B just read this book, B from Mama Needs to Read Romance, and she loved it. So I really want to try it because she has great taste. And this one literally gives fall on the cover. And I think honestly all 4 of these books I'm talking about they're just like, they give Hallmark movies vibes. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's an issue with a land grab and someone's farm might go under and there's a romance. Or like, I don't know, just a lot of those like classic Hallmark romance tropes. So there's that one. There's the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, which I do believe has a mystery in it. And I have the audiobook for this one, so this one I actually might read coming up soon. So this one is supposed to be almost a Gilmore Girls, not retelling, but very much inspired by it. And I know that a lot of people really like this whole series, and I'm very curious. I want to try it out. And I've heard mixed things. Some people love it, some people don't. I think there's some spice in there, but I think there's also a mystery. I think that could work for me right now. I also have the Cinnamon Spice Inn. I know the Honeycrisp Orchard Inn. I think this one is an upcoming release. I could be wrong. I think some of these are like not technically out yet, but will be soon. The Cinnamon Spice Inn, again, a beautiful cover. This is by Harper Graham. And I also have Love and Lattes at Pumpkin Hollow by Victoria Walters. Again, beautiful autumnal cover that it's giving cozy Hallmark romance. So those all four, as you can see, are all very similar in look and vibes. And I'm hoping that because they are cozy-esque, that will help get me reading romance again. I do miss romance, but I just don't feel like reading it. Okay, you guys, let's now talk about fantasy, which includes epic fantasy, and also like thriller horror books. Let me just check to see. Okay, I have, how many? I do have one book here that I don't have no, I have two books. I have two books here that I don't have physical copies of. One is Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. I have that on hold at the library. I think it releases in like a week. And I think this is Dark Academia meets Hell. It's R.F. Kuang. She's an amazing writer from what I've heard. I still haven't read anything by her. I do own Babel. But because this one seems almost like spooky. Something about this synopsis specifically to me, like you guys can go read it. I'm not going to read the synopsis right here, but like something about that synopsis is even more intriguing to me than Babel's. So I want to try this one first. I just think it might really click with me even more. So I want to read that one. And I don't have a copy of that one yet. I also have this other book on hold at the library I'm waiting for, and it's a newer release. It's by Emily Tesh. It's called The Incandescent, and this is a dark academia. I think it's like a witchy school, like a magic school. So that totally gives me fall vibes. The only dark academia books I've ever really liked have fantasy and magic elements. I've never really been into the non-magical dark academia. So both of those super intriguing. One new epic fantasy, it's not a new series, but new to me, that I really want to read is Jade City by Fonda Lee. I do have the audiobook on hold at the library. I want to get to this maybe beginning of September, end of August. We're gonna have to see. This TBR basically is going from now until probably like mid-November. But this is supposed to be about Jade, and it's supposed to be a dark urban fantasy. It's Asian inspired, and I guess Jade is like the power. And I've heard only amazing things about this. And because it's a darker, like grimdark urban fantasy with kind of almost like mafia elements, that gives me fall vibes. I also would like to finish out the Tawny Man trilogy by Robin Hobb. So all I have left is Fool's Fate. I'm really upset because they just came out with a new publisher for the paperbacks, and they didn't match them up. So this one is about a half an inch taller than my other ones. And the picture here doesn't line up. I'm really infuriated when they do that. It's so freaking annoying. I was collecting these. I probably won't collect these anymore. I will probably have to collect maybe like older edition or something. I don't know. I'm annoyed though. Why do they do that? Anyway, love the series though. I'm obsessed with Robin Hobb. I love the realm of the I love the realm of the Elderlings. It is a very medieval fantasy that always makes you feel like the weather's cold and that you want to snuggle up. It just gives those vibes. Like, it's just very cozy in that way. I love Buckkeep Town. I love Fitz. It's definitely grim-ish dark. It's very, can be depressing and sad at times. And I'm really excited to finish out this trilogy. I know I'm going to cry my eyes out. Another new epic fantasy series that I'd like to start this fall is The Will of the Many by James Islington. I just picked this book up. I talked about it in, it might be my upcoming vlog or my most recent vlog. I'm not really sure. I hauled it during one of them, but this one is, I like this cover a lot more, this paperback cover, but this is supposed to be Roman inspired, but also giving a lot of like vibes like Red Rising, which I haven't read, but sounds like a book I would like, but I've only heard people be obsessed with this series and I would like to be obsessed with it too. So there's that one. I also have another book that I've been meaning to read for a long time. I want to read some fantasy novellas, so I thought I'd try Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I feel like it's easier to try out her writing this way than with Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, because that book's extremely long, but I own that and I want to read that too. But this one is supposed to be kind of weird. I don't know much about it. I'm kind of going in blind, but I think that's what you're supposed to do. I also have The River Has Roots by Amal El-Mohtar, and this is a fae fantasy novella. This author wrote This Is How You Lose the Time War, which was one of my favorite books the year that I read it. It was a sci-fi, and her writing is absolutely stunning, and I'm just excited to read more from her. Another new series that I want to try. I've actually finished out a lot of series recently, so I'm like excited to start new ones. But I've got Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft. I've heard the writing in here is something that I will probably like a lot. I like flowery, beautiful writing, and I've heard the writing is just really pretty. I've heard that this is a little bit off-kilter, like weird in a way, and I like weird books, so I think that this could be a book for me. I guess we'll just find out. And then I have a T. Kingfisher because I love T. Kingfisher, and her books are great for fall. So this one I have A Sorceress Comes to Call. I've heard mixed things about this one, but it sounds really good to me, and it seems to be one of her darker fairy tale retellings, which I like. And I think this is a Goose Girl retelling, so on my radar, I want to read that one. And finally, I need to read Emma Wong's newer work, Blood Over Brighthaven. The Sword of Kaigen was one of my favorite books the year I read it, and this one I've heard is only even better, and it's dark academia with magic. So it's a magic school. Like, I need to read it this fall. I think that's going to be perfect. And I want to read it soon, so. Okay, I think these books will be perfect to kind of like transition into the horror thriller because they're kind of fantasy and horror thrillers. So this is Ninth House and Hellbent. So I would really like to reread Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which is a dark academia, very dark and gritty fantasy, dark academia, thriller-ish, horror-ish genre bender. I loved it. I really enjoyed it so much, but I do need to reread it, and then I can read Hellbent, which is the follow-up, and then I think the third book comes out in 2026. More like horror type books, I've got Vampires El Norte by Isabel Canas. This one is a horror that takes place in Mexico. It's historical. She generally has gothic vibes in her books, and she also generally incorporates a romance. So I thought that'd be perfect. And then I have The Reformatory by Tanana Reeve Dew. Now, I've never read anything by Tanana Reeve Dew before, but I've heard that her writing is wonderful, that she's a great author. I own this one. The cover gives fall in the South, and I think this is going to be really hard-hitting as well, given the content, like what it's about, which is kind of like based on a true story kind of situation. And it's going to have like a lot of racial inequality commentary and commentary on racism in the South, etc. And finally, I have 3 more thrillers. Okay, the first one I've talked about, I have from the library, and that's Shinora Williams' Whispers of the Lake. this is also supposed to have kind of like, I don't know if it's going to be romantic elements, but I think it's supposed to be a domestic thriller that definitely has some type of romantic elements in it, potentially. As you guys can see, I'm trying to incorporate that some in these books to get me reading romance again. So I'm trying to read books that are not necessarily romances, but might have some of those elements in them. And then I also have In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. I loved The Last Housewife by her, and I haven't read any other book by her, and this one I own. And it's also set at a university. I think it is a reunion, like a class reunion kind of thing, but it gives dark academia vibes. So definitely think this would be perfect for fall. And I have a Riley Sager, because Riley Sager's always, honestly, he's always like at least a semi-hit. He's not always a home run for me, but he always works for me for a mystery thriller. And I have the only one left. Now, this one I think is going to be very And Then There Were None. It looks like, you know, a gothic, big, castle-y house on the edge of a cliff. So I don't know if it's going to be as twisty or if it's going to be more on the mystery side, but I want to find out. And this one actually has really wonderful reviews. There you have it. That was my incredibly long TBR or MBR or pile of possibilities for fall. 44 books that I would love to read. Let me know if there's any of these that you think I should prioritize, if there's any of these books that you've really loved, and let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.
But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.